Hi, welcome to my channel, Frugal Living. Today I'm going to share with you an interview I had with Tambreshia Richardson from Sense for Youth. She's going to give us tips on how to teach our kids about money management. Stay tuned. Here, Sense for Youth. She teaches financial literacy to youth, which is something that a lot of people aren't doing because honestly, I just barely learned about a lot of this stuff in the past 2 or 3 years. So really, I feel as if this is something that is important for children to start learning about at a young age. So if you can just share a little bit about your story, tell us about yourself and how you got into teaching financial literacy.
All right. So first of all, thank you for having me on here. So a little bit about me. I have a unique story for most people when it comes to finances and how I got here. I grew up with my grandparents and my grandmother heavily teaching me about savings, budgeting, and credit. So as a teenager, I was able to, when I got my first job at 14, my parents taught me how to save my own money to buy my back to school clothes. So I went from parents taking me back
Wow.
to school shopping to buying my own. So I'm like, wait, what? I have to spend my own money? So they taught me responsibility. And it's something that as I went through my teenage years, as I, continued to work, being able to pay for different things, my parents piggybacked onto what my grandparents did to make sure that I built a solid foundation with credit. So they did things such as adding me as an authorized user. They made sure, coming out of college, I wasn't a first time car buyer. So added me as a co-signer onto their automobile. So that way it built my credit up before I even came out of college. So that way I had a solid credit profile. I have an accounting background. I'm a numbers person, love
Wow.
mathematics, accounting, all of that. I spent some years in high school competing on a math team, which led to me coaching a math team when I was in college. So I was able to get a glimpse of the classroom and I was like, oh, I really like this. But I was halfway done with my bachelor's in accounting. So I was like, I don't want to change majors. So I went into corporate for a few years and decided I'm going to take a leap of faith and go teach. So I spent a few years teaching sixth grade math. Absolutely loved it. But people asked them, why did you leave? I just felt like with the education system, it was hard for me to teach for the love of teaching. I was teaching to a state test and all these different standards, but I felt like the kids were at a disadvantage of learning the curriculum opposed to us just kind of, okay, we covered this and you move on. And one of the topics I had to teach my first year was credit. And so one of my best lessons that I taught, but I walked away wondering what resources could I use to teach these lessons besides just the open dialogue. And so I ended up leaving the classroom and my thought was I have to get back in the classroom some other way, which is really what led me to Sense for Youth. I also have a credit restoration and tax company. And so as I'm talking to my clients, especially with credit, they're trying to rebuild their credit. And it's like, man, I wish I knew this stuff when I was younger. And so I'll just probe like, what exactly, do you wish that you knew? Just about savings, how to not, run up all these student loans and credit cards and all of this. And so I took some of that information and begin to build a product that I could use for the kids because it's like, if as a parent, if you don't know, what about your kids? People don't realize
Yeah.
that your kids learn your habits. So how you
Yeah.
move is, to them, that's the norm. And so for me was like, what can I do to, be able to have a product that can go into the schools and that you can use at home just when it comes to teaching financial literacy. So that's a little bit, how I got to this point. It's just a combination of so many life experiences into one. And I'm like, hey, I just have to put this out there and see how far it goes because I know there's some kids that, they need this in their life. Some parents need this for them. So that's how Sense for Youth was created.
Wow, that's amazing because I know for me, I've always considered myself frugal, but I didn't understand about how to make money and to save and all those different things. I would always save money, but it was not really, especially when it comes to student loans, the idea of not having to get all these loans, because it's like, I'm a single parent and people are like, well, how are you going to pay for school? And I said, I don't know.
Right.
So that was basically, even though I knew that that was a bad idea, I
Right.
just didn't know any options
Yep.
other than that. It's like, that's what we've been taught. Well, I don't know what
Yep.
else to do. That's what you do. I guess I have to just do that. And
Exactly.
having someone like you to teach youth, there's actually scholarships and things out there. There's things that you can actually use that you don't have to get into this. So that
Absolutely.
leads me to my next question, talking about when we're thinking of small children, because I have bookends. I have a 16-year-old and a 2-year-old. So
Okay.
I'm like doing it both ways. I got one that's talking about, well, she's almost 16. One who's talking about driving. The other is, just learning life. So how can we as parents, especially with her getting older and she's learning a lot at 2, she's 2.5 now. How can we teach smaller children about money?
So it's just like, as you think about your basics, as you talk about, just your shapes and your coins and different things like that, getting it in front of them. So I definitely recommend using the fake dollars and buying like the
Oh,
different little
yeah.
toys for them, like the cash register. Get
Oh,
them,
yeah.
having these things. And as they have toys, they're playing, you play for things, you play with things that cost money, or they're counting and what color is this, I do it with, I don't have kids, but I have a ton of cousins and friends with kids that I do this with them of, how do you think outside the box? When you're doing these things, for the younger ones, you might have to do the bigger kind of laminate a piece of paper and kind of like that's the money that goes in there or something like that. But you make it educational to where, in their mind, they're learning the basic things of what is this color? What number is this? But equate it with
Yeah.
money, because there's so many, things that are out there that, they have coins, they have, educational things related to money. So a lot of times we go to Walmart, we go to Target, we go pick up, different games like that. But it's like, look at the games that teach them the basic fundamentals of life. So like the game Life to me is like Monopoly, but as you get them at a younger age, you have to really think beyond just the basic little toys that you just go buy because it's a noise maker or it's something to keep them quiet to
Yeah.
play with. And actually, think about how do you put the time in to get them used to seeing these things to equate it with money. Because when they get 4 or 5, they're talking more. Can I have this? Can I do this?
Yeah.
You want them to recognize this is $1. You pay for this. This is $2. It's never too early to get them used to paying for things. When you go to the grocery store, allow them to be able to give the cashier some money. Whether it's a debit card to put it in, so they understand these different things that I'm making a payment. And where does this money come from? Oftentimes we don't talk about, working and mom or dad have to go to work and make this to a child. They just see you have all the money on the world. My grandmother used to say, you think money grow on trees, put yourself in their shoes. They don't know any better,
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to really have more of those conversations. And a lot of time we think that when they get older, we have that conversation, but a child is going to pick up on these things at a young age. So we have to treat them almost like they're an adult. Nope, that costs money. No, what's free, what costs money, how much does it cost? They may not fully comprehend, but eventually it's like, to me, touching a stove of it's hot. We teach them that's hot, do not touch it. Certain things that cost money. So that way they understand, and as they get older, you want that, does this cost money? You want it to turn into, how much does this cost? How much
Yeah.
money do I have? The conversations and the questions as they progress, as they get older, are going to shift with their depth of what they understand and what they can ask the parents. So I think that, it's important, it's vital that we spend that time educating our kids from an early age. Don't treat them, and I hear my grandmother would say, quit treating these babies like a baby. And for the longest, it's like, but they are a baby. But she was like, no, get them learning early. You'll be surprised of what they retain, and just different things. It sounds, it might be over their head, but they'll pick up on those things. So I mean, even with your you said 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So by the time they're 3, they're gonna be a tape recorder. It's
Yes.
like they start repeating everything, and so it's okay for them to know. No, that costs money. No,
Yeah.
it's okay. So it's kind of fun. It's like, shh, don't say that. But for them to be able to know that and say that is that's a learning point. So I tell anybody when you start getting them ready for pre-K and things like that, you start teaching them the basics of money and just pointing to the numbers of equate your basic learning things with money as well.
Wow, that's really good because it's kind of like you almost think that things need to be a certain way. Because I know with my oldest, I would take her in a Dollar Tree. And I remember, and she hates when I tell the story, but I'm still going to tell it because I've been telling it for years. And when she went in a Dollar Tree, she had a major tantrum because I told her, okay, it's $1. So her grandmother had given her $1. And she said, oh, I don't have my dollar with me. I said, okay, I'll buy it for you. But then when we get home, give me your dollar.
Yep.
And when she, realized, okay, I have to actually give you this dollar. I wasn't just saying it. She had a fit.
Yep.
And I said, and I was like the mama that was like, no, we're not going to do that. And so I said, you know what, next time, because I said, I paid you 8 cents. So next time you're going to have $1.08. So you want to do that.
Yep. That's
she knows that she has to pay tax. So I said, because that toy actually at Dollar Tree doesn't just cost $1. It's actually more than $1.
Yep.
It's $1.08.
Yep.
And so now she always knows that. Yeah, I know. It's like, you better have your 8 cents. So I tease her, you better have your 8 cents.
And that's a good lesson. That is a great lesson. That's a great lesson that is probably now she's probably like, Mom, please quit telling this story. But as she get older, you have to think about how many people don't know that there's tax on items because they're not used to paying for anything. Yeah. And so, they're used to, I've seen it where the kids go to the gas station, they're buying a snack and they take just enough change and they don't have enough. So you're kind of looking in line behind them like, it's okay, here goes some more change.
Yeah.
But it's like we have to make sure that we educate them that, hey, you have to add tax. And let's talk about what is tax. Why do we pay tax? What does it mean? So that way they know, how to calculate, okay, our tax is 8.25%. So I'm going to pay 8 cents on $1, Yeah. If I spend $2 and kind of getting them going, it's a percentage. So I have to calculate. So the more money I spend, the higher the percent. So it's so many things that tie into it that it's like, it's a simple lesson, but it's a valuable life lesson.
I hope you enjoyed the interview I had with Tambreshia Richardson from Sense for Youth. I'm going to link in the description how to follow her and how to get some of the resources she has to offer. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And in a few videos, I'll be talking more about my special delivery because for those of you who don't know, I'm pregnant. All right, last but certainly not least, happy savings!